Hello and welcome back to Curious Breed. Today we have a tale of friendship and devotion that spans lifetime, just like me and my little Labrador here. So this is the story of Krishna and Sudama, a tale where the richest and the poorest unite, not just in friendship but in spirit. And then we'll take a look at another beautiful instance of Krishna's unwavering loyalty and kindness towards his dear friend Draupadi. Each of these stories carry profound lessons about giving, kindness, and the true meaning of wealth. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into the magical world of Krishna. But before we start, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Curious Breed for more such stories that inspire and enlighten. Our story begins in a simple village where a humble Brahmin named Sudama lived with his family. They were struggling to make ends meet. Each day was a battle and every meal was a gift that they could barely afford. Sudama's clothes were worn thin, his house was crumbling, but he was content with whatever little he had. But contentment is not always easy, especially when it comes to watching your loved ones suffer. Sudama's wife could no longer bear the sight of their children crying from hunger. She was deeply saddened watching their frail son ask for food she didn't have. One evening, after another day of silent suffering, she went to Sudama and said, "You have an old friend Krishna who is now the king of Dwaraka. Perhaps he could help us." Now Sudama was reluctant. How could he go and beg from his childhood friend? He held his friendship with Krishna above everything else, and the thought of mixing that pure bond with worldly needs pained him. But his wife persisted. "Is it pride, my dear, or fear? You don't have to ask anything. Just go and see him. Surely a friend like Krishna would be happy to see you even if you arrived empty-handed." Now with a heavy heart, Sudama agreed. But he couldn't possibly show up to meet Krishna without bringing something. After all, they had grown up sharing food and laughter together. Sudama scoured his house for something, anything to take with him as a gift. All he could find was a small bag of puffed rice, the last of their food. As he wrapped it carefully, he thought to himself, "Krishna will appreciate the small offering. It's all that I have, but it's given with love." And with that, he set off on a long, tiring journey to Dwaraka, walking barefoot, his eyes full of memories with his dear friend. Now, when Sudama finally reached Dwaraka, he could hardly believe his eyes. Krishna's palace was a sight to behold, a shimmering structure that looked like it was crafted from jewels and gold. Everywhere he looked, there was splendor, wealth, and majesty. Sudama hesitated at the gates, feeling small and out of place in his ragged old clothes. But word quickly reached Krishna that his dear friend Sudama was at their door. Without a second thought, Krishna ran to greet him. Imagine the mighty King Krishna pushing past guards and attendants just to see his childhood friend. He hugged Sudama tightly, and in that moment, all kinds of barriers of wealth and status melted away. Sudama was no longer a poor man, he was Krishna's beloved friend. Krishna welcomed Sudama with a warmth that filled his heart. He washed Sudama's feet as a symbol of respect and affection and made him sit on a grand seat while he sat on the floor. Sudama could hardly speak. All he could do was marvel at Krishna's humility and kindness. Sudama's heart was pounding. He reached into his bag and pulled out the small bundle of puffed rice that he carried with himself. With embarrassment, he offered it to Krishna, apologizing for its simplicity. But Krishna's eyes lit up with joy. To him, this humble gift was priceless because it came from Sudama's heart. He took a handful of the puffed rice and ate it with delight. As Krishna enjoyed each bite, he said, "This is the food of love, Sudama. I promise you I will return this tenfold." Sudama was overwhelmed. He hadn't come for charity, he had come for friendship. And he never once spoke about his poverty, his hungry children, or his suffering. For Sudama, seeing Krishna was enough. His heart was full. Krishna treated him to a grand meal. 56 dishes were laid out before Sudama. He had never seen anything like that before. Every bite felt like a blessing, and every moment in Krishna's presence was a memory he could cherish forever. Sudama then bid Krishna farewell, feeling lighter than he had in years. He left without asking for anything, but he had received more than he hoped for. Yet when he returned to his village, he was in for a miraculous surprise. The humble hut where Sudama had lived was gone. In its place stood a magnificent mansion adorned with silk, precious gems, and golden decorations. His wife and children were dressed in fine clothes, their faces full of joy. Sudama was speechless. Krishna did indeed fulfill the silent promise. That single handful of puffed rice, given with love, had been returned to him tenfold in ways beyond material wealth. So what can we learn from this story? Firstly, it teaches us that true friendship transcends wealth and status. Krishna didn't care about Sudama's poverty or his background. He cared about his friendship and his friend's heart. Another important takeaway is the idea of giving without expectation. Sudama gave his gift out of love for Krishna, and Krishna blessed him without being asked. What we see is that genuine generosity is always returned. The love Sudama brought to Krishna was rewarded with blessings that transformed his life. But this, my dear friends, is not the only time Krishna showed such devotion to his friends. Let's move to the other story, the bond between Krishna and Draupadi, to see how he kept his promise yet again. So Krishna shared a very beautiful bond with Draupadi, the wife of the Pandavas. One day, Krishna was flying a kite, enjoying a simple pleasure, when the string cut his finger quite deeply. Seeing his injury, Draupadi immediately tore a piece of her sari and wrapped it around his wound, comforting him with care and compassion. Krishna, moved by her selflessness, promised him, "I will repay this kindness tenfold whenever you need me, Draupadi." Draupadi didn't think much of that promise at the time, but Krishna would remember it when she needed him the most. Fast forward to the Mahabharata, when Draupadi was being humiliated in the Kaurava court, facing disrobing in front of a crowd. She called out to Krishna, her heart pleading for help. And Krishna, true to his word, protected her by making her sari endless, ensuring that no one could dishonor her. This act not only saved her dignity, but also showed the strength of Krishna's commitment to the ones he loved. Just as he had promised Sudama, Krishna repaid Draupadi's kindness tenfold, standing by her when she needed him the most. Hope you've enjoyed this story. Do share your thoughts in the comment section below, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe to Curious Brain.